E3 is coming up right around the corner, and I thought to myself, hey, it would be fun to make an E3 predictions video. So that's what I'm doing, but I decided I don't want to do this alone. I want to have someone else share their opinions as well, so you guys get a 2-for-1. So I hit up my good friend Wood from BeatEmUps and said, hey, you want to do this E3 video? And he said, go away. I was like, all right, dude. But then he was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. So if you're not familiar with Wood, I'm gonna let Wood give his little spiel, his little intro, and then we're gonna get into the video. So grab your balls, your crystal balls, because we're gonna talk some E3 predictions.
Hi, I'm Wood from the channel BeatEmUps, and I usually stand up, but Sean usually sits down, so I'm sitting down. I'm here with my E3 predictions for this year, things that I think they're gonna talk about at E3. I have a couple of Sony things, couple of Nintendo things. I almost have no clue on Xbox, but let's get started.
So the way this video is going to work is I'm basically going to give a prediction, and then Wood is going to give a prediction, and we'll just go back and forth like that. Now, first off, the first company to talk about is definitely Microsoft, because out of the three main companies, Microsoft is probably the most interesting because you don't have a whole hell of a lot coming from them in terms of actual software. It's more of a hardware focus. But when it comes to software, I think you're going to see a lot of Sea of Thieves stuff. That obviously was a game that they were heavily pushing last year, and I think it could be one of the exciting titles on the platform. It's definitely one of the rare first-party games, and it actually is a rare game, so that makes it even more rare. You know, Microsoft isn't really known for their first-party titles anymore with the cancellation of games like Scalebound and whatnot. So Sea of Thieves, I could see a really strong emphasis on it, and with good reason. It does look like a really fun and unique game, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of Sea of Thieves to see if that will be something that will help propel the Xbox brand.
So let's start with Xbox. I'm honestly stumped, and I told Sean this. I love Xbox. I've definitely been a PlayStation guy and a Nintendo guy in the last recent few years. So I'm not really following Xbox trends, and I haven't really been super into a lot of the exclusives they have been making. But if I could see anything from Remedy this year, that would be fantastic. I feel like if Remedy is going to be working on anything, now is the time. It's been a little while since Quantum Break came out. It's been a long time since Alan Wake came out. I love both of those games so much, especially Alan Wake. So if I could see anything from them, that'd be fantastic. I guess I'm not really predicting it because, especially with Alan Wake being taken off the marketplace in the next coming weeks, I think Remedy was really just hurting in general. Plus Quantum Break didn't sell too well, but they do make some amazing games. They have some amazing writing. So I really hope that they manage to pull something out this year.
The second prediction for Microsoft is, of course, the Scorpio. Obviously, this is going to be their biggest point and their biggest emphasis at E3. This new powerful hardware that I honestly feel is unnecessary. I don't really see the need for the Scorpio in 2017, especially just with the way the landscape is going in gaming. But I think they're really going to try to sell people on the Scorpio, and it's going to be very interesting. I assume they're going to have a pack-in title because at the prices that, you know, are rumored for the Xbox Scorpio, it's going to be a hard sell. And Microsoft really, this is their first time, you know, actually presenting the console, actually presenting what it can do. And I think they're going to wow a lot of graphics fans. I think a lot of, you know, graphic whores are going to be really impressed with the system. But the fact that, you know, all of the games must run on the original Xbox One along with the Scorpio kind of holds it back. Will they, you know, take a step back on that? Will they change their policy to where the Xbox One Scorpio can have exclusive games? And if they do that, is this a true successor to the Xbox One? There's a lot of questions to be answered with the Xbox Scorpio, and I think that makes it exciting. You know, new hardware is always exciting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, what exactly the Scorpio is, what the price point is going to be, and what they plan on doing with the Scorpio.
And then obviously there's going to be Scorpio talk. There's going to be a lot of Scorpio talk. The machine itself seems like it's going to be a little mini beast. It's going to be a really great way to play some 4K games and 60 frames. And even for people that don't have a 4K TV, it's supposed to put out some really cool looking visuals. And I mean, I'm really not, again, I don't know if I'm going to pick up a Scorpio, so I've not really been diving heavily into it. But that's definitely going to be the focus of Xbox this year. At least, yeah, that's definitely going to be the focus.
PlayStation.
So up next, we're going to talk about Sony, because Sony has a lot going on right now. And I think the first thing you're going to see from Sony, and a very strong point of emphasis from them, is going to be virtual reality. Because they gave you sort of a teaser last year at E3, and then you subsequently got these sort of mini games. They weren't really full-fledged virtual reality games. There was also tacked in things like the Star Wars DLC and, adding it to Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 was the first game that was sort of designed with that virtual reality in mind. I think Sony is gonna do a lot of emphasis on the PlayStation VR, and I think you're gonna see the first title, full-fledged big release from Sony of a game that can only be played on PlayStation VR. Because, if you look at something like the new 3DS XL, Nintendo had to step up to the plate to, do Xenoblade Chronicles 3D on the system to show people that it was worth the investment. Now, of course, has it really been worth the investment? There hasn't been much subsequent games that could only run on the 3DS XL. I think PlayStation really needs to identify with their VR customers that, hey, there's going to be dedicated VR support. There's going to be at least 1 or 2 big titles that you have to have a VR to play, and that's the only way to play. When you're making a game and you're designing it with VR in mind, but it also has to work on a television, that sort of does restrict you, I feel. So I think Sony's gonna take the next step, and they're gonna solidify the VR market with a major title for PlayStation VR and only for PlayStation VR.
Now, as far as Sony goes, there is so much. I'm actually really excited for Sony this year for a lot of reasons. Last year, they showed us a bunch of trailers and cinematics of a bunch of things that were coming in the next few years, maybe eventually, possibly. But this year, I'm really hoping to see some gameplay of a couple of games. First up, we have Detroit Becoming Human. I'm a huge fan of Heavy Rain. I'm a huge fan of Beyond Two Souls. I love both of those games so much. Heavy Rain definitely won it for me out of those two. That's definitely a better game in my opinion, but I enjoyed Beyond Two Souls a whole lot. Gotta love some Ellen Page. So I'm really excited to see some gameplay out of this game. I love games like this, the Telltale games, the games where you sort of play a movie and you have minimal interaction with the game. But I mean, I don't know, I really love these kind of style of games. I have so many adventure games, so it's nice to play a game where it's like I'm being told a story, I'm being told a movie, and they do a really great job, especially with these games, at making them really intense and feeling like your decisions weigh heavily in the story. And then you always get like an awesome choice at the end. You can pick between a bunch of things, and I mean, Heavy Rain had like 57 different endings, so I'm really excited to see what comes from Detroit Becoming Human, and I'm definitely going to talk about it this year.
The next thing I expect from Sony is nothing handheld related, and there's been a lot of rumors circulating that there's sort of a Nintendo Switch-like thing that Sony is coming out with, and it could be unveiled at E3. I honestly feel that it will not be unveiled at E3. I honestly feel that this is not a real thing for a multitude of reasons. When you look at, both the PSP and the Vita, great systems in their own right, but especially looking at the Vita, how bad has support gotten from that on that? You know what I'm saying? Like, Sony isn't focusing on that at all. Did they even mention it at E3 last year? Third-party developers are still putting, JRPGs and stuff on there, but you're not seeing anything from Sony themselves. And I honestly feel like Sony is done with the handheld side of things. But I could see one thing happening, and that's the extension of the PS Now service that is coming to PC, where you can play, games on your PC of the PlayStation variety. I could see that possibly extending to mobile devices and tablets and stuff. I think that would be actually really smart for Sony to do, is, be able to play a variety of PlayStation games from different systems on your mobile device. And I think that's something that is doable, have a subscription service to it. That could really maybe not put a huge dent in Nintendo, but that could actually wake Nintendo up to Sony in the mobile marketplace, because I know a lot of people would like to play original Sony games. Yes, I'm not a huge fan of touch controls or whatever, but if you mold it for that, or put a virtual D-pad on there, or you allow controller use, because a lot of people have controllers for their tablets and their cell phones, little built-in things, I think that could be pretty exciting. So I don't foresee them doing a new dedicated handheld, but I do foresee them potentially extending PS Now into mobile devices.
And I won't talk about this next one for too long because, Last of Us Part 2, We've all known it's been coming since the first one dropped and it was amazing, and then there's going to be a movie and there's going to be a bunch of stuff happening with that franchise for sure, and then we have 3 games for sure in the series, and there's going to be spin-offs eventually because this isn't the franchise that they're going to let die, at least not anytime soon. I'm really excited to see some gameplay. Last of Us 1 had some amazing gameplay. They built that AI up from scratch. The stuff that was going on in that game, where I remember I saw that launch trailer, the gameplay trailer for that game, and you know, you were walking around as Joel and you would fire a few rounds, and if you ran out of bullets, the enemies in the area would hear that you're out of bullets and say something about it, and they would change the way they acted in a situation. They would come closer to you, they would try and like rush you because they knew you were out of bullets, and Ellie picking up bricks and holding onto them, and then when you're in trouble, throwing them at the right time, saving you at the right time. Everything felt so organic in that game. The way they made everything flow, there was such an awesome experience to be had, and you could rush through it. You could power through it like commando style, and you would still experience a lot of those kinds of things where you would have situations like that happening, but then you could also like sneak and stealth and still have a lot of situations like that you wouldn't get otherwise. Situations where there was one part where you were sneaking around a corner and a guy saw you and came at you with a bat, and then Ellie saved you, and it's like something that you wouldn't get if you rushed through it. So I'm excited to see gameplay for Last of Us 2 and the sort of things they implement in that. Have they rebuilt the AI again? Have they improved on it? I love Last of Us. I finished it quite a few times, so I'm excited for that. I said I wouldn't talk about that too long, but I did.
Nintendo.
So the final company to talk about is, of course, Nintendo. And they're in a very interesting position right now. The Switch is obviously a huge selling item, very hot on the marketplace. A lot of people are enjoying it, myself and Wood included. So obviously the first and foremost thing is going to be the virtual console and online stuff. You're going to see a ton of stuff about virtual console and online. Price points, release dates, all that stuff, what the virtual console is going to do, what systems are going to be on the virtual console, and I honestly feel that there's going to be some surprises. With this whole Sega Forever thing that I've been covering on the channel, I could definitely foresee Sega being a part of Nintendo's virtual console in a big way, with potentially Saturn games and whatnot. The virtual console is a very interesting service, and while it was great on the Wii, it definitely sucked on the Wii U in comparison to the Wii. So Nintendo needs to take that next step and really beef up the virtual console. They also need to convince consumers that their online service is going to be worth paying money for. As of right now, you know, there's still disconnects in Mario Kart. There are still basic features that these games do not feature. There needs to be a dedicated online service that all games can access and all games can use, including previous releases. Games like Splatoon 2 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe shouldn't be hindered, don't hinder the gender, shouldn't be hindered by this archaic online service that Nintendo currently offers for free. So that's going to be a huge part, that's going to be a huge emphasis for Nintendo.
Let's keep it short and sweet on Nintendo. We all know that I love my Switch. We all know that I'm excited for a lot of things. I haven't actually, and you guys are gonna think bad of me for this, I've never actually played Skyrim. I bought it for PC because I wanted to mod it, and I spent an entire day modding it, and then I played it for a day, and I was just kind of burnt out on modding it, and I felt like maybe this isn't as good as I could get it to look, I'll try again later, and I just never got around to it because I didn't want to mod it anymore. Really bad mindset to be in. So I'm really excited for it to come out for the Switch, and I can actually play it and have a good time with it and enjoy Skyrim for the first time and waste 80 to 100 hours of my life or more. And I'm excited for E3 to see some reveal of this, to see what it actually looks like, see how it runs, get the general feel of what it's going to be like. Actually, if I was sitting here right now, I can't even remember if they announced that it's like the Legendary Edition, whatever they called, where it's like remastered. I'm pretty sure they did at some point, and if they do have it running, even at 60, if they get it running at 60 frames, I'll be really excited for that. I'll be really impressed by the Switch at that point. Switch is a cool system, don't get me wrong, it can do some amazing things, but it's not like it's a portable PlayStation 4, so if they can get that looking pretty nice, I'll be excited.
And kind of going with what Wood said with Skyrim, I think you're going to see a lot of third-party stuff with Nintendo. I could have gone the easy route and said you're going to see Super Mario Odyssey and maybe a Metroid, but I don't really think you're going to see a Metroid. I think you're going to see what we already know, maybe a few surprises of the lower variety, but I think you're going to see a lot of third-party stuff, especially Western third-party stuff. Games like Skyrim are definitely going to be revealed because that's a tough sell. You have to convince people to pick up Skyrim again on a Nintendo platform for the first time. So it's going to be very interesting, but I think you're going to see more of NBA 2K18. I honestly feel you're going to see Call of Duty on the Nintendo Switch, because that's a money maker right there for Activision. I could potentially see EA coming out with Madden and possibly 2K with a wrestling game. I really think that the initial success of the Switch and the high software sales that we're seeing in games is really promising to Western third-party developers, because like I always say, a Western company will put their game on a calculator if the calculator is a hot item, if the calculator is selling well. When you look at the Nintendo Wii, there was plenty of games, third-party games on that system. Your Maddens, your Call of Duties, your NBA Lives, your NBA 2K, they were all on that platform. I'm not saying that there's necessarily going to be dedicated third-party games, exclusives, but I think there will be some of those as well. But I definitely foresee more multi-platform third-party games, sports games, you know, Call of Duties, your basic shooters. I could definitely see those making an impact on the Nintendo Switch and being a focal point for Nintendo at E3.
And I'm really hoping for a Metroid. I mean, I do it every year. I hope every year that one will be made again. There's no way it won't. Nintendo slams its franchise in our faces consistently every year. Hey Pokemon, hey Zelda, hey Splatoon now, hey everything. Like we're slamming our franchises in your face because you know you'll eat them up. The fact that there hasn't been a Metroid game in so long blows my mind. I don't know what it is that's going on behind closed doors at Nintendo that they can't get a Metroid game out, or maybe they're so secretive about it. They don't mention it. So I'm really hoping that this year we'll see something Metroid for a new game, a Metroid Prime 4 or Metroid Prime reboot. Give me something Metroid in a Prime style and I'll be primed. I'll be ready. That sounded dirty.
Random companies. Finally, we're gonna close with some random stuff. Basically just stuff from other companies that will be at E3. Sega. Sega is going to be my company, and I think you're going to see what Sega Forever and what Amazing Sega really means. I pretty much have already, pulled the lid off of what Sega Forever is, but I think you're going to see it more in practice, more in principle, and what devices it's going to use, because I think Sega's really gearing up for a decent E3, man. I think they're going to really try to pull out all the stops. I think they're going to try to be exciting and unique, and offer something to gamers. That's kind of the division, the way they're going right now, and that's something I can foresee.
Okay, and two games that I'm looking forward to hearing about that I know one will be talked about for sure at E3 that are from just developers, CD Projekt or Project, I can't remember how it's pronounced. They're Cyberpunk 2077. When that trailer launched like 17 years ago now, I think it was more like 5 years ago now, I was so stupidly excited for that game. Just the way they built that trailer had me hyped all the way up. I remember I actually downloaded the song for that trailer. In fact, I feel like listening to it now that I'm thinking about it. The song, the animation, the everything about that cinematic trailer just had me completely hooked on that world. I wanted to learn more about that world. I wanted to be a part of that world. And I love Witcher 3. I really do like that game, but I'm really weird where I've never really been into Dungeons and Dragons. I've never been really into like that older, Dungeons and Dragons style of game, like Skyrim. Like that's kind of why I never played it. Like I love games like that, and I do enjoy that world, that Dungeons and Dragons type world, but I'm definitely way more into stuff like this, where it's futuristic and it's weird and it's like you learn new things, you explore new things, new places. I don't know, I really like that whole feel. So I'm excited to play a game, hopefully kind of like Witcher 3, but in this kind of world, who knows?
And my final random prediction is going to come from Capcom themselves. And this one, there's been rumors about it, and I really feel like it could happen. So Resident Evil 7, the complete edition with all the DLC on the Nintendo Switch. Because you have to remember, the big rumor that's going around that supposedly has been verified in some places is that Nintendo and Capcom worked together on the architecture of the Switch in terms of power, and Capcom really pushed Nintendo to allow the Resident Evil 7 engine to be able to run on the Nintendo Switch. So if they didn't have any intentions of putting the game on the platform, what would the point be? And I really feel like you're going to see a definitive version of Resident Evil 7. It may even be a multi-platform. They may even do a multi-platform, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch version with all the DLC, but I really think you're gonna see that engine running on the Nintendo Switch. I think that will be a big surprise for people, just to showcase how powerful the Nintendo Switch is, because right now we haven't seen much in terms of graphics, you know, from the Nintendo Switch. The way Nintendo makes their games is definitely in a different style than what a Western developer does. So it'll be interesting to see a more realistic style running on the Nintendo Switch. And, you know, that's another reason why I'm excited for Skyrim. I want to see how it stacks up to these, you know, powerful PS4, Xbox One, and PC versions. I want to see the same thing with Resident Evil 7. So that is my Looney Bins prediction. That is my Looney Tunes prediction. Resident Evil 7 Complete Edition running on the Switch.
And finally, Red Dead 2. I'm so excited to hear about Red Dead 2. I mean, I love Red Dead 1. Finished it a bunch of times. I'm playing it again right now on Xbox One. It's backwards compatible, and if you guys don't know, put in your Xbox 360 disc of Red Dead. You can download that thing on Xbox One, and it looks like so much better. Like, it's been like pushed up, scaled up, whatever. It just looks a lot better than 360 and runs a lot smoother than 360, and it's such a fun game. It's really, really incredible. If you haven't played that, you owe it to yourself. It's in my top 5 favorite games. Might even be the second spot, I'm not sure, but it's an amazing, amazing game. So I've seen some screenshots actually about 10 minutes ago of Red Dead 2, and just damn, man, like the lighting, the graphics, the everything. I mean, they might be cinematic shots, they might be gameplay shots, but the picture of the forest, I don't know if Sean is good at editing and I can actually put that forest over me as I'm talking right now, but that got me a little bit aroused. I'm just really, really excited to hear more about that game, and it's definitely going to be talked about. And if I can see some gameplay, ooh, I'm ready.
All right, and that is Wood and I's E3 predictions. It's obviously a very exciting time. It's gonna be very fun. There's gonna be a bunch of E3 related videos on my channel and on Wood's channel, I'm sure. So thank you for checking out this video. If you're not familiar with Wood, I'm gonna let him end this video. I'm gonna let him do the outro. Make sure you go check him out. He's a very good buddy of mine. Check out his channel, BeatEmUps. He does a lot of great stuff on there. Nintendo Switch, retro gaming, Game Quest, bunch of great stuff. So thank you, Wood. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I'm gonna let Wood end the video, so I will catch you guys next time.
So that's what I'm looking forward to at E3 this year, and I would really, really like to thank Sean, and I said that really, really weird. Thanks, Sean, for having me in this video. I'm just gonna itch my nose a little bit here too, because I was talking to Sean today, and I realized that I haven't collabed with him on his channel. I've collabed with him several times on my channel, but I haven't actually ever managed to collab with him on his channel, and we're both pretty excited for E3, so this was definitely a good call, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Sean, for having me on. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, do it for Zeldies. And I'll see you not in the next video. That's usually what I say. I'll see you in my channel if you come subscribe to me, touch my bell.
RGT 85, RGT 85.
I don't know what I'm doing.
RGT 85, RGT 85.